All right, so we're gonna do using a 2D sketch to make a box tube part. Um, this is something we do often is using 2D sketches to make pieces, and this is also a good opportunity for me to show you a feature script about making box tubing. So there's a starting file here, which you're gonna click to open. It'll take a moment to open. It's really a chassis that we made for the 2024 off season. Don't want you messing with this file because we're gonna have multiple people working on it. So you will do up here, you hit the hamburger looking thing and select copy workspace. And you can copy it, create it wherever you want it. I'll put it in the owned by me. Copy it right there. Once you've copied it, you should be able to edit it at that point. We're going to make two pieces of box tubing. The first one is across the very front of the robot. It'll connect these three holes here in the front with these three holes across the other side. We'll make this out of 2x1. The first thing I want to show you, though, is at the very beginning of the whole part studio, up at the very top, the first thing that gets done, you can see here, derived 1, is that 4 sketches were brought into this workspace. Let me go ahead and make them visible. Let me go ahead and hide all my parts. I'm going to right-click a part and select Hide All Parts. So you can see these sketches were made sort of after we decide how the robot overall will look. We'll create these 2D sketches which sort of lay out where everything's going to be. This is really useful because that way all of our subsystems can kind of use some of the same sketches. We can make sure they fit together. And if we want to change something, we can often just change the sketch. And if people have derived the parts off of those sketches, it should update. So let me go ahead and show you these. We have a chassis sketch. Let me hide the others. You can see here. Here's the chassis. You can see there's 2 wheels and sort of the shape of the robot. Here's the front bumper. Here's the beam that we're going to make. Let me hide that. There's an intake sketch, shows you some of the geometry of our intake. There's a pivot where our shooter pivots on. And of course, there's our shooter. Let's just bring the chassis up here so we can see that. And then I will go ahead and bring all of my parts back. Let me right click and show all parts. There we go. So you can see that this part of the sketch represents a 2x1 box tube that's going to run across the front of the robot. So the way I'm going to build that is I'm going to leave this 2D sketch open. I'm going to start a new sketch on this back plate, on the front of this back plate. Now that's going to allow me to start drawing on that back plate. You might think, oh, well, I'm going to draw this 2x1 box. I'm not going to do that, though, because I want it to be exactly where my 2D sketch is. So instead, I'm going to use this command, which is called use, project/convert. Now I'm going to project this line, see that line right there, this line right here, this line right here, and this line right here. I projected them. You can see they got projected onto this plane. Here's these black lines, which I've now used to enclose that area. And that way, if I later change the shape of this sketch, it will change that projection. I'm going to click the green check mark. I'm done with that sketch. At this point, I can hide my derived sketch, and I can just look at this piece I've got right here. This is what I'm going to extrude. So let me click that. I actually want to also select the areas inside these holes because I don't want to not project that area. I just want a solid block of 2x1. I'm going to select extrude, and you'll see it'll start to extrude that block. If you have little holes here, it's because you missed selecting some of them. I want this to be a brand new piece. I don't want it to just be an extension of this plate. This is a whole separate piece. So instead of clicking add for this extrusion, I'm going to select new. And now how far do I want to project this? Well, I could measure this gap and say I want to project it 20 inches or whatever it is. But if I change my mind about how big this chassis is, I want it to change with it. So instead of just doing what's called a blind extrusion and saying the distance, I'm going to select up to face. And then I'm going to select this other side, this face, and it will project it, it'll extrude it up to that face. And that's really convenient. If I go and change that later, it will adjust. Let me go ahead and click the green check mark. So here's my piece of aluminum box. Let me hide everything else. Right click, hide other parts. You can see what it looks like. It's 2 inches by 1 inches. It looks a lot like a piece of box tube. The main problem is that it's not hollow. And this is where we can use what's called a feature script. Feature scripts are custom tools that have been designed by users of Onshape. And if I go back to the assignment here, you can see there's a file called Julia's feature scripts. Let me go ahead and open that. Julia, I don't know what team you are from, or I wish I could meet you and shake your hand and thank you for some of these great feature scripts, because they've made our life much easier. It'll take a moment to load up here because this file has a lot of great feature scripts. The one I'm concerned about is the tube converter feature script. Once it's taken a moment to load up, it's going to give me the option to add them. So you can see this is the code that Julia wrote. I am not a coder, so this is a little bit confusing to me. I don't need to know it, though. It works. I know it works. I'm going to click plus on custom features. I'm going to scroll down to tube converter. I'm going to click tube converter. Now, for me, it said it was removed from your toolbar. That's because I already had it. For you, it would add it. So let's click it again. It was added to my toolbar. Great. So now I should have that feature script. Let me go back to my bar. So I want to turn this into a tube. I'm going to go here to my custom features, scroll all the way to the bottom. There's tube converter. You can see it's right here, tube converter. I'm going to click it. It's a custom tool for FRC. Bodies to convert. Well, that's going to be this body right here. Let me click it. Okay. You'll see it suddenly became hollow. That's awesome. Wall thickness. It defaulted to 1/16 of an inch. I want this to be thicker, 1/8 of an inch, because this is the, on the outside of our robot, it could take some hits. So I want it to be a little bit stronger. I want there to be a hole pattern. I can take off the hole pattern if I want. Let's bring it back. And now I need to select some options about this hole pattern. On the 2-inch face, here we go. It says 1.5 inches between the holes. This is too far. We want 1 inch between the holes. Okay. And the other thing I want is a center row as well. So I'm going to check this box that says mic mode, center row. There we go. This is very similar to the tube we have in our shop from ThriftyBot. You can also buy a similar pattern from West Coast Products, I believe, and maybe a couple other providers. Hole spacing is every 1/2 inch. So they're doing a row of these every 1/2 inch. Hole size, 0.196. That's the size for a number 10 bolts. Sometimes we put 0.201 to give ourselves a little bit of clearance. Honestly, these tubes come with, I think, 5 millimeter. I could say 5 millimeter. They're all about the same size. They all work. But I just want to make sure all my settings are good. I can also adjust the 1-inch face. Right now it's set to 1 row. That's perfect. And then the last thing I need to worry about is the location of these holes. Okay, so right now I need this hole here to be a 1/2 inch from the edge. And if I click right now, oh, it won't let me click because I'm in the middle. I can see that it's actually too close. It's a 1/4 inch. It did this because it tried to center the holes. You can see right here in the middle, it centered them. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, instead of have my holes centered on the tube, I'm going to select offset from the end. I'm going to offset them. I need to select the fixed face, which is this side here. From this face, I'm going to offset them 1/2 inch, 0.5. So you can see this is now a 1/2 inch in. I'm going to double check my other side. It appears to be a 1/2 inch over there as well. This is important because I know how I'm going to use this tube. This tube is going to be used, I'm going to put tube plugs in it in the ends, and they have a 1/2 inch depth. You can see tube plugs look like this. And the ones we use are a 1/2 inch from that edge. I'm going to click the green check mark. I'm all done. That tube looks good. Let's right click, show all parts. You can see we brought it back. That looks great. I'm going to be able to just put some number 10 bolts in here into the tube plug, fasten the tube plug into this piece of box tube. That's going to be nice and strong across the front. All right, I'm going to do this one more time just to emphasize it. There's another tube that needs to be extruded here. It's part of the pivot sketch because it's one of the mounting pieces for that pivot. Here it is. It's a piece of 1x1 box tube. It's an 1/8 of an inch off of this edge because there is going to be space here for a belly pan. which is not yet modeled, but we'll do this tube first. I'm going to click Sketch. I'm going to sketch it along this wall right here. I'm going to select Use, Project/Convert, and I'm going to project all of the sides of this 1x1 box from my 2D sketch onto my sketch plane. You can see there it is. Let's click the green check mark. Go ahead and hide my derived pivot sketch so you can't see that anymore. Here this one is. Click it. I'm going to extrude it. I'm going to once again use the up to face trick. This time I'm going to take it from this side all the way across to the other side. So up to face. The face I'm going to select is right here. Perfect. That's exactly how I want it. Click the green check mark. And let me go ahead and select my tube converter. Select my 1x1 tube. This tube I actually do want to be 1/16 wall because this is not going to be taking the same hits that my outside ones are, and we are worried about weight. The holes look good by default. Let me look from the top. Oh, no, they're not. See these holes? They don't line up with the holes in this piece. We need to be able to put a bolt through that. So it looks like these holes here, because they're centered, are too close to this edge. Let me change it. Instead of centered on tube, let's do offset from the end. Let's use this as the end, and they should be a 1/2 inch offset. Let's look at it now. Yes, now my holes line up. So this is going to be able to get bolted to that bottom rail. Perfect. That looks good. Looks good. Thickness is on. Click the green check mark. Everything looks good. There it is. All right, that's how you use a 2D sketch to create box tube, as well as the feature script to add the holes and hollow it out so it looks like a nice little box. All right. Good luck. Have fun. When you're done, you can submit this copy that you made to the assignment here and just add it in here. All right. Good luck.